Welcome back to AI Solutions, the pathway to profit. This is episode 16. Today, we're tackling a topic that makes a lot of executives nervous: AI ethics. We're going to build a practical framework for responsible implementation. Now, let's be blunt. I've sat in too many meetings where ethics gets shoved over to the legal department like some compliance headache. That's a massive, short-sighted mistake. This isn't about vague corporate responsibility posters on the wall. This is about your bottom line and long-term survival. The question I always start with is this: is the AI you're so proud of a true competitive advantage, or is it a hidden reputational time bomb just waiting for the right news cycle to detonate? Let's find out. All right, let's cut through the noise. Forget the legal jargon for a moment and talk about what really matters: trust and revenue. What I often tell leaders is to frame ethical AI as a trust-building machine. Your customers aren't stupid. They know you're using AI, and when they believe it's fair, they stick with you. It also becomes a beacon for top talent. The best engineers I know don't want to build discriminatory algorithms. They want to build things they're proud of. I saw the opposite happen with a fintech firm. They launched an AI loan approval tool trained on historically biased data, and it started denying qualified applicants from specific neighborhoods. The media firestorm was immediate. Their stock took a tangible hit, and the cleanup cost millions in PR and rebuilding the system from scratch. They treated ethics as a checkbox, and it nearly sank them. You'll find it works better to see this not as a cost, but as vital insurance against a catastrophic failure. So let's build this framework pillar by pillar. The first two are the absolute bedrock: fairness and transparency. Let's tackle fairness. Algorithmic bias isn't some complex academic concept. It's simple: garbage in, gospel out. If you train a hiring algorithm on 30 years of your company's hiring data, and that data reflects the history of favoring men for technical roles, you haven't built an AI. You've built a high-speed, automated version of your old biases. That's not progress. It's just efficient discrimination. And the impact on real, qualified people is immense. Then there's transparency. The excuse I hear constantly is, it's a black box. Oh, don't buy it. If your system denies someone a loan, you must be able to explain why. Was it their debt-to-income ratio? Their credit history? You need that clarity for your own internal audits to ensure the model works as intended. And your customer deserves an answer beyond "the computer said no." If you can't explain it, you can't defend it. Now, let's talk about the next two pillars: accountability and privacy. And this is where the buck stops. I always ask executives, when your AI incorrectly flags a customer for fraud and freezes their account, who gets the angry phone call? Who is responsible? The answer can't be the algorithm. That's a failure of leadership. What I like to see is a clear governance structure where every AI model has a designated business owner. Not a tech lead, a business leader. Their name is on it. They are accountable for its performance and its mistakes. This stops the finger pointing instantly. And that brings us to privacy. Your AI is hungry for data, but that data belongs to real people. Look, regulations like GDPR are not the goal. They are the absolute minimum starting point. Treating compliance as the finish line is lazy. You might find it works better to reframe this. Your robust protection of user data isn't a cost. It's a feature. It's about earning the trust that allows you to operate in the first place. So, we have our pillars. Now, where do we start putting this into practice? Step one is assembling the right team, and this is non-negotiable. The first and most common mistake I see is companies treating ethics as a technical problem and shoving it into the data science department. That's a recipe for disaster. What I like to see is a formal, cross-functional ethics committee. This isn't just a meeting with engineers. You need legal counsel, of course, but you also need marketing, who understands customer perception. You need HR, who can spot the impact on your people. You need a product lead who owns the user experience. You might find it works better to understand that each of these people sees risk through a different lens. Your data scientists can tell you if they can build it, but this committee is there to ask if they should. That diversity is your only real defense against the kind of massive blind spots that sink companies. Once you have that committee, the very next step is what I call a strategic pre-mortem. Formally, it's an ethical impact assessment, or EIA. You might find this works better than any code review you'll ever do, because it happens before a single line of code is written. What I like to see is the committee in a room asking 3 brutal questions. 1. What is the absolute worst way this AI could fail? 2. Which groups of people, even small ones, could be unintentionally harmed by this system? And 3. If someone wanted to use this tool for malicious purposes, how would they do it? This isn't about pessimism. It's about proactive risk mitigation. You're mapping out the landmines before you send the troops in. Doing this up front saves you from a catastrophic cleanup on the back end. All right, step 3 is where the real work begins, vetting your data. This is ground zero for bias. We all know the phrase, garbage in, garbage out. But with AI, it's more like garbage in, gospel out. The machine treats your biased historical data as absolute truth. I once worked with a retail company whose AI personal shopper only recommended high-end products because its training data was pulled exclusively from their flagship store in an affluent neighborhood. What I like to see is a dedicated audit before any model building. Get your team to ask, who is overrepresented here? And more importantly, who is missing? You might find that it works better to use techniques like stratified sampling to consciously rebalance your dataset, ensuring it reflects the diverse customer base you want to serve, not just the one you accidentally inherited. So now for step 4, where we finally kill the black box excuse. This is about prioritizing what we call explainable AI, or XAI. Frankly, this isn't about your engineers needing to understand every single mathematical calculation. This is about being able to answer one simple question for any decision the AI makes. Why? What I like to see are teams building with tools. You'll hear acronyms thrown around like LIME or SHAP that provide what I call a decision recipe for every output. If your AI denies a loan, the recipe tells you the exact ingredients. Maybe it was 2 parts high debt to income ratio and 1 part short credit history. You might find it works better to see this not as a technical feature, but as a non-negotiable business requirement. It gives you the power to explain, to defend, and most importantly, to fix your system when it inevitably gets something wrong. And now for step 5, which is an absolute deal breaker for any high-stakes decision. I'm talking about finance, healthcare, hiring, anything that materially affects someone's life. You must implement a human in the loop. The rule is simple. The AI is the co-pilot, not the pilot. What I like to see is a system where the AI makes a strong recommendation, but a human expert makes the final call. A machine can score loan applications, but a loan officer should have the power to override it. This isn't about distrusting the tech. It's about retaining accountability. And the work doesn't stop at launch. You might find it works better to continuously monitor your models for performance drift. the world changes, and your model can become biased over time. Without constant oversight, a system that was fair in January could be creating PR disasters by June. Let's put this framework to work on something we've all dealt with, a customer service chatbot designed to handle complaints. The ethics committee I'd assemble wouldn't just ask if it works, they'd ask for whom it works. What I like to see is them grilling the tech team. Did you test this model on non-native English speakers? How does it handle a thick regional accent? Fairness here means equal access to being understood. Then, transparency. When the bot inevitably fails and escalates to a person, you might find it works better when the human agent gets the full, unedited transcript. No one wants to repeat their story 5 times. And finally, human oversight. The bot might be programmed to offer a standard 10% discount, but an empowered human agent can spot extreme frustration and make the call to offer a full replacement. The AI handles the volume. The human provides the crucial judgment. Now, as soon as I lay this out in a boardroom, I hear the same 2 arguments. The first is, this will slow down innovation. And the second is, it's too expensive. Reckless speed isn't innovation. It's a liability. What I like to see is a simple reframing of the conversation. This framework isn't a cost center. It's a fundamental investment in risk mitigation and the long-term value of your brand. You might find it works better to think of it like this. The cost of a single public ethical failure, the stock hit, the regulatory fines, the customer exodus, will always dwarf the investment in building responsibly from the start. I've seen it happen. It's not about slowing down. It's about building a business that doesn't detonate under pressure. So let's bring it all home. What I like to see is a clear 5-step playbook. First, you assemble that diverse cross-functional ethics committee. No excuses. Second, you conduct that pre-mortem, the ethical impact assessment, before you write a single line of code. Third, you audit your data like your brand depends on it, because it does. Fourth, you build for explainability, killing the black box myth for good. And finally, you always keep a human in the loop for high-stakes decisions. You might find it works better to stop seeing this as a constraint and start seeing it for what it is, a competitive advantage. Responsible AI is without question profitable AI. It's how you build a resilient, trustworthy brand that lasts. Join us next time for episode 17, Small Data, Big Impact, AI for businesses without massive datasets, where we'll debunk the myth that you need Google-sized data to achieve incredible results. Thank you for listening. If you find this information useful, we would really appreciate it if you would like and subscribe this channel to help others find us. If there are subjects you would like covered, please add in the comments section, and we will include it in future episodes.